Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video. And today's video, I am finally ranking all the maps within Treyarch Zombies. This video has been a long time coming. I have been playing all the Treyarch Zombies maps for the last several months, and I've been trying to do everything within them so that way I can experience them for all they're worth, and see whether or not that I like certain maps, if I love certain maps, or in general, are some maps even forgettable and even worth remembering? That is what we're going to be trying to answer all throughout today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below how you would rank the maps within Treyarch Zombies. Please let me know what some of your favorite maps are, what your least favorite maps are, and also why. I'm really just curious to see how you guys would rank them differently than I would. And before we get in with the official ranking, let me set the parameters for how we are going to be ranking all these different maps. First and foremost, I am ranking these maps personally based off of how fun they are, and that is it. Now this is subjective, which transitions into my second point I'm going to be making here, is that this is my own opinion. Please, if you have your own opinions, share them with me in the comments, but please do not criticize mine. Also as well, when I'm ranking these maps, I am thinking with the original ones in mind. I am not going to be accounting for remakes unless they are drastically different or consider their own maps. So for example, the remakes that are in Zombies Chronicles would not count as different maps, but the remakes of certain maps within Black Ops 4, those will count as their own maps. And lastly, I am not ranking Outbreak or no round-based zombies, so that means I'm also not going to be ranking things like Vanguard Zombies or Modern Warfare 3. I am just ranking the maps that have been within Treyarch's own games. But with all that being said though, I do truly hope you guys end up enjoying seeing my rankings of every single Treyarch Zombies map. Bus Depot from Black Ops 2. In my opinion, this is the worst map that Treyarch has ever made for one of their own games. This is just shitty, not Durin Toten. So what is Bus Depot, for those of you guys that don't know what this map is? Well, basically, long story short, in Black Ops 2, when they decide to end up making the map Transit, they also decide to split parts of Transit into their own survival maps, and one of these is Bus Depot. Now, all the maps that were split from Transit have their own themes, and this one was trying to be like a Nocturne Toten, where the only thing that you can use is one single mystery box. There's no perks, and really the best wonder weapon you can get is a ray gun, and that's it. This map is not fun, because it has all the other elements of what made Transit bad. It has the lava, it has the fog. The layout in general just also sucks. You really can't train anywhere in this map. This map overall is, like I said, just shitty Nocturne Toten. They tried to end up playing on our nostalgia, and it didn't work out. To be perfectly honest, I forgot that this map even existed. It's not necessarily that I thought it was bad, I just didn't remember it. I remembered Town, and hell, I even at least remembered Farm. I just flat out forgot that Bus Depot existed. That's how bad it is. It's just not even bad, it's forgettable. Overall, in my opinion, you're not missing out on much if you've not played this map before. Black Ops 2 is ironically, even though it's one of the best Call of Duties out there, has some of the most annoying and infuriating maps the series has to offer, and one of them is Bus Depot. I just think that this map is so bad, it's not fun. You don't have any Easter eggs or anything, so it's not like that you really have to look forward to playing this map for any sort of cool storyline elements either. The map literally has nothing to offer other just than the fact that it exists, and it's something you can do if you are bored. Farm from Black Ops 2. Once again, this is just another map that was taken from Transit. It's really no more different than Bus Depot other than the fact that it also has perks, but it still has fog and still has lava, so those things are also annoying within this map, just like how they were in Bus Depot. Farm, unfortunately, is just another forgettable survival map. I at least remember it more fondly than Bus Depot, given the fact that there is perks within this map, but in reality, I don't really remember it for more other than just a little bit of nostalgia. That's it. The map's not inherently good, it's literally just because it's tied to my childhood. If you didn't grow up with Black Ops 2, you're gonna have no emotional attachment to this map, and therefore you're gonna see more of its cracks than somebody if they had nostalgia like me. Farm is not the absolute worst map in existence, but it's just not a good one either. Transit from Black Ops 2. Holy fucking shit, I forgot how bad this map is. I played Transit for the first time in God knows how long, just for the sake of getting background gameplay for this video, and Jesus fucking Christ, I forgot how much I hated this map. Not only is the lava and the fog once again within this map, like the prior two maps I just talked about, but Transit has a plethora of other annoying BS that you will experience just by playing the game. You will experience denizens, one of the most annoying bosses you will ever see in your entire life. You will experience, if you choose to, the jet gun, one of the worst wonder weapons ever in existence in your entire life. Not only that, but if you want to even build the damn thing, it can also break on you. I think this is the only wonder weapon in history that you can break just by using the thing. There's also lava and fog, once again. There is the crappy bus transportation system. The only really good thing to come out of it is the memes with Ted. And also, in addition to that, we also have the old Black Ops 2 parts system, where if you want to build anything with this entire map, you have to do it one single piece at a time, which means that you are going to spend most of the game running in circles. Now, for those of you guys that are going to say that Transit was not as bad as you remember it being when you were a kid, I 100% promise you it is the nostalgia talking. Because I bet you that most of you, when you ended up playing Transit back in the day, you guys were just playing with your friends, and you were just joking around and not taking things too seriously. I bet you didn't build the jet gun, I bet that you didn't go on to do the Easter egg, I bet that you probably played for only a matter of 20 minutes, just got to the mystery box, probably died, laughed at some dick jokes, and then you moved on to another game, because that's what most players do, including myself. And for any of you that are trying to call my bluff and say Transit was not that bad, do me a favor. Go back and try to do everything that Transit has to offer. Try to build the jet gun. Try to end up playing and get Pack-a-Punch. Try to be able to get to a high round. And do this, by the way, in solo, because without your friends there, I promise you, this map is not as enjoyable as you remember it. You quite literally are going to experience the same pain and suffering that you are seeing right now within the very gameplay, where I'm trying to find a single jet gun part in a Nocturne Toten remake on Transit. You are going to get lost, you are going to get burned by lava, you are going to get scratched by denizens, and you are going to be angry in the face. Voyage of Despair from Black Ops 4. This should have, in its own way, been the Shadows of Evil of Black Ops 4. This map takes place in the Titanic. That's such a cool concept. That could have been such a fun idea for a map. But unfortunately, this map is associated with a lot of bad memories for quite a few people because this is one of the launch maps for Black Ops 4, which means that, not even for its own fault, people associate this map with the PS4 blue screen of death, when the game would just die on you just because it could. So let's say that you get past all the gameplay glitches and your game is still not crashed yet. If you play this map and you manage to somehow get to a decently high round and unlock everything, you'll realize that a lot of the things on Voyage are just a disappointment. The Wonder Weapon, for example. This should have been cool. It's literally a cannon that's called the Kraken. It's supposed to be pirate themed and have all these different elemental ammo types. But the gun is just weak. It doesn't hit as hard as it could, and it basically is useless come round 30 or 40. And not even necessarily the Wonder Weapon, but just the way that the map is laid out is bad. Like, this map is claustrophobic as hell. From the moment that you spawn in, it's tight. When you go throughout the map, it is tight. It really only ever opens up once you get to the very end of the boat and you're able to somewhat camp near the central artifact location. But that's it. The rest of the map is not fun to navigate through. You pretty much are at a race to get to the very end of the map and then stay there the rest of the game and only move when it's just at the end of a round and you can hold a zombie. The map is overall just not fun to be in. It feels like a chore to play Voyage of Despair. More rather, actually feels like a punishment to play Voyage of Despair. You're not going to enjoy your experience. I really looked forward more to when the game ended and I stopped having to get the footage for this map than actually playing the map itself. And this is a video game. I shouldn't end up being in a situation where I'm trying to look forward to not playing a video game. That's when it's not a good game. Alpha Omega from Black Ops 4. God, where do I even begin? The first word that pops into my mind when I think of Alpha Omega is disappointment. Because this is not even necessarily a Treyarch map. This is a Activision Shanghai map. This was a map that was created because Treyarch couldn't finish Black Ops 4. They had to work on Black Ops Cold War come this point in the life cycle of the game. So this map is just a reuse of assets and just trying to end up scraping by. Alpha Omega is just a remake and a bigger version of Nuketown. That's literally it. It's literally just bigger Nuketown. It's not in a cool brand new location. There's really nothing new in this map. The wonder weapons of Alpha Omega are just elemental raygun Mark IIs, which is kind of cool, but not really because it comes across as lazy. And I don't know about you guys, but once again, this map, just like Voyage, suffers from the same problems. Clutter. This map is cramped as hell, even though it's gigantic. I understand they're trying to copy the Blackout map, but we don't want to try to have to use Blackout logic in Zombies. Like, why is this map so close quarters, despite the fact that it's huge? I feel like I'm going to get jumped from every single corner in this map. There's too much shit in my way. There's too many tight, narrow doorways where I can barely fit through. And with the super sprinters, if they trap me in a corner, I am dead. If you are not set up by, like, let's say, round 15 within Alpha Omega, you're not going to have fun. There is way too many things that are working against you for this map to be enjoyable. There's annoying boss zombies. The ray guns are basically your only method of killing unless you're trying to end up using PhD slider with a rocket launcher. This map feels boring. This map feels frustrating. There's plenty of environmental elements also as well that are in play that are going to keep you from staying in one area for too long. Because, for example, there is a mechanic in the game where the houses can get filled with this like toxic gas. And it makes it so that way if you want to pack a punch, you have to clear out that toxic gas. But if you do that, it's going to spawn in a horde of zombies. And that means that unless you have like a god gun, like let's say one of the ray guns, you literally are going to get surrounded and you can't move and then you will die. And Activision, by the way, I have to ask, whose idea was it to make the jumping jacks all of a sudden have teleport abilities and be able to enhance the powers of the zombies by just simply being near them? Whose idea was that? Because that guy needs to be fired, because these boss enemies here on Alpha Omega are some of the most annoying little shits you will ever experience. Die Rise from Black Ops 2. This map is just a flat-out troll. So for those of you guys that do not know, Die Rise is a map where you're basically playing in a whole bunch of giant skyscrapers, which sounds cool on paper, but it's actually poor in practice, because what happens is that this map has one fatal flaw, and that is fall damage. In this map, you're going to suffer from fall damage a lot, and you could very easily die if you were not careful. This problem could have very easily been fixed had they added in PhD Flopper, but they chose not to. In fact, they not only chose to not give you PhD Flopper, they decided to troll you and make you think you can get PhD Flopper, but it's out of bounds and it's just a cosmetic effect, so you can't actually end up getting it, and therefore you have to end up suffering through the fall damage no matter what you do. Yes, we actually had devs back in the day that quite literally want to just watch us suffer, and they wonder why we don't play this map. Now, at least within Die Rise, it does have one of the best wonder weapons of all time, with that being the Sliquifier. This thing, before it was patched, it was able to end up getting you basically to whatever round you wanted with one single shot, because it could chain kill zombies. And eventually this would be fixed, so that way it stops doing that around round 100. So the gun's still very good, it's just not the best anymore. But it's just like, with the combination of the fall damage and just the way that the map is laid out, and also not even mentioning the elevators, like I completely forgot to mention the elevators. For those of you guys that don't know, there is elevators within Die Rise, and these control the flow of how you get your perks and pack-a-punch in this game. So if you end up going over to an elevator where you can find a perk or the pack-a-punch sitting in, if you are not there in time, the perk will actually just go away, the elevator will go up or down a floor, and then you can miss out on grabbing a perk like Juggernog, or you can even lose your Pack-a-Punch gun in the middle of putting in the machine, and then trying to pull back out, the Pack-a-Punch just goes away. That is stuff that you would experience in Die Rise, and you couldn't control this unless you end up getting a elevator key, which is just a lying key around the map, and you could use this on one elevator at a time, and you could call the elevator to whatever floor you were on, but the moment that you used it, you had to find another key. So pretty much the process of getting the elevators to work for you was basically useless. And exclusive to Die Rise, we have got Who's Who, one of the worst perks ever, right next to Tombstone from Transit. But there's nothing else that I can say about Who's Who or Tombstone that hasn't already been said before, so I'm just going to move on from Die Rise and talk about the next map. Nuketown from Black Ops 2. So Nuketown in Black Ops 2 is at least what it should have been in the first place, unlike Alpha Omega from Black Ops 4, which is just a survival map. This map is going to be pretty much identical from its multiplayer counterpart, and that's really what I think that Nuketown is best known for, is its multiplayer version and not necessarily its zombies version, because for Nuketown it really never worked for zombies. And it's not about how much stuff you put into it, because that's why both the original Nuketown and Alpha Omega just don't do well as maps. The only reason why I am putting the original Nuketown up higher is because I just enjoy this map more. I think that the layout is more understandable, and since it's simpler in nature, it's more enjoyable and easier to understand. The only thing that's frustrating about Nuketown is the fact that the perks will randomly just drop out of the sky, which means you can get Juggernog sometimes as late as like round 25, which means that you really can't get set up until at least round 25 sometimes, which is why that this map is really tough to end up getting used to. Some people like it for the challenge, some people hate it for that exact same reason. I don't necessarily love or hate Nuketown, I just kind of tolerate it. It just exists for me. There's some days where I like a challenge and I will play it, and there's some days where I could care less and I actually get frustrated with it. But if I had to rank it in comparison to all the other maps, I really can't put it any higher than this, because the map's not the worst ever, but I really wouldn't go out of my way to go back to it either. Verrucht from World at War. So when it comes to the World at War maps, in my opinion, Verrucht is the least fun to play on because it's the most difficult. I do respect Verrucht, and I respect what it has done for this franchise, but I still end up thinking that this map is not necessarily that good. It's just not my cup of tea. I love the atmosphere about it, but in terms of gameplay, I really don't necessarily enjoy playing on Verrucht, because it's got a lot of elements that annoy me in particular. One specific element that is only ever on Verrucht is a thing called the Verrucht Sprinters. Let me explain what these are really quick. So, back when Noctur and Toten, the very first map ever to exist, came out for World at War Zombies, people were complaining online how slow the zombies took to get to the player and be able to end up attacking them. So slow, in fact, that Treyarch answered this and respond with that we are working on making the zombies faster for our next expansion, which was Verrucht. So you thought that, okay, maybe the zombies will get to you just a little bit closer and a little bit quicker, so that way you can be able to end up enjoying the game easier. Well, they did that a little too well, because they quite literally have it where, on Verrucht only, there are zombies that will sprint so fast at you, you can't even see them sometimes until they're already on top of you. And the way that the mechanics are with World at War, where the zombies can like hug you to death and like not let you go, if they grab you and get a hold of you, you're basically screwed. So I would say that the Verrucht Sprinters are the most dangerous zombies we have probably ever seen within this franchise, because they run ungodly fast. And these are just normal-ass zombies. World at War maps are kind of hard to rank because I didn't grow up with them, so I know that there's going to be some people that are nostalgic for this and say that, oh, you should have put them up higher because this was the beginning maps, it's unfair to end up ranking them against all the newer ones. And to be honest, that is a very valid point, but you also got to admit at the same time, we've always got to be able to move on and go on to bigger and better things, so we can't always end up being just hold down by a standard because of the fact that it was always the first thing to come out. And so in my opinion, I really feel like this is the best possible spot to put Verrucht because it honors its legacy and what it did, but it doesn't end up making it so that way it's just blinded by pure nostalgia. Shangri-La from Black Ops 1. I feel like that either you love this map or you hate this map. I'm really not seeing people in between for those when it comes to Shangri-La. Shangri-La is a very niche map for a lot of people. And that's because there's really just unique gameplay elements that really no other map has replicated and are just specifically on Shangri-La. So in Shangri-La, there is, number one, 2 different types of boss enemies. There is going to be the Napalm Zombie and the Shrieker Zombie. These guys are really interesting because they've really never been replicated again necessarily. The Napalm Zombie walks around slowly and just follows you, but if you shoot at him, he'll run at you and then he will explode himself and try to kill you with fire. The Shrieker Zombie ends up blinding you by screaming so loudly it like causes a blur effect on your screen, which is really, really crazy. And we also have one of the most unique wonder weapons within Shangri-La, which is going to be the Shrink Ray, or the baby gun, which technically has infinite damage because of the way it works. If you shoot a zombie, it will shrink it into a baby, and you can just run it over by running into it, and it can kill it by one-shotting it. Now for pack, it's simple for solo, because all you gotta do is just find a pressure plate and stand on it to get this one statue to stand still, and then you can just go up these stairs and spawn and be able to pack a punch. Pretty straightforward. The problem is that when you're playing in co-op, every player you add to the lobby requires an additional tile to end up being pressed, which means that in 4-player lobbies, you have to have 4 of these tiles all being pushed down at once. So if you're playing with randoms, you're literally screwed and you'll never pack a punch. It's even hard to do this with friends sometimes if nobody knows what they're doing. Shangri-La is a cool map concept. It's got a lot of unique elements that really never replicate again, so if you want to experience them, you have to go back to Shangri-La. That's why I feel like a lot of players preach about Shangri-La, because those that like those elements can only get them within this map. But it's just not for me. It's not my cup of tea personally. I'd rather would play other maps, which we'll talk about later on within this list. Nocturne Toten from World at War. Now, I know some of you guys are going to be shocked about how high I put this up on the list, but like I said, World at War maps are kind of hard to rank because you have to respect them for what they did, and you can't just put them at the very bottom. But if you put them too high, people are like, okay, buddy, now you're just being nostalgic and being quite literally just unfair to some of the other maps. So it's like, where do you put these? And for me, I think that this is a good spot right here for 2 main reasons. Is that, number one, I put this here because even though Noct is just a mystery box in like 3 rooms, Nocturne Toten is a overall really cool map. It's the first ever map, yes, but what it did for this series is unforgettable. You will never be able to replicate this ever again. I'm not even necessarily talking about the map, the way it plays. I'm talking about the way it was revealed. I am jealous of the players that got to experience this map back in the day by just playing the campaign and just being surprised. That must have been probably the coolest experience ever back in the day. And I never got to experience that because back when I was a kid, I grew up with the Nintendo Wii, so I never got to experience World at War. Even if it was on, yes, technically the Wii, it didn't get zombies. And second of all, simple maps are okay. I like playing simple maps sometimes. I don't necessarily need to end up having a complex map to enjoy myself. I'm okay with having just a mystery box, a couple wall weapons, and immersion. This map is mostly just immersion for me. I like the ability to imagine that I am in the World at War Nocturne Toten, my actual self, fighting off against zombies as if this was a real-life nightmare. The horror within the original Nocturne Toten will never be replicated ever again. When you're playing World at War Nocturne Toten, there's no character voice lines. There's no drop sound effects where Sam is talking to you. There is really no good guns in that box other than like 2 or 3, and you're very lucky if you pull any of them. The zombies in Nocturne Toten are so feral sounding that they like snarl and bark at you. They sound like rabid dogs. And just the premise of them being from World War II and knowing what Germany did back in the day, it's the most creepy and horrifying concept if you truly think about it. The idea of being in this exact setting, Noct deserves to be high on the list because it's not. Shinonuma from World at War. If you are a fan of high rounding, this is the map for you. Shinonuma from World at War specifically is the easiest map that you can get a high round on within COD Zombies. This map first introduced the Wunderwaffe, which basically kills zombies infinitely. This also introduced the Hellhounds boss, which allows you to be able to get a max ammo every 5 rounds, and you can even use to refill your Wunderwaffe. And after a while, the zombies cap off at 24, which means that you really don't have to worry about zombies after a while. Let me ask you guys something. If you had to make a guess, what do you think is the highest round that was ever achieved within this map? If you just had to make a wild guess, it's not the hundreds, it's not even the early thousands. The highest round ever achieved in Shinonuma is 11,482. That is the highest round, not only in World at War and Shinonuma, but just COD ever. If you ever want to go for a high round and have easy fun, play Shinonuma. Classified from Black Ops 4. Now, Classified is a remake of 5 from Black Ops 1, and it's pretty similar, but it's different enough to be considered its own unique map. So you're back in the Pentagon, and you're going to be experiencing it with Black Ops 4 elements. So Black Ops 4 perks, and the Black Ops 4 buildables, and also just the Black Ops 4 elixirs in general. The map, honestly, is not too different from 5. Hell, if you want to, you can even do a side Easter egg that gets you the wonder weapon from 5, which is the Winter's Howl again, which is slightly better and classified, although not too terribly much. But I really don't end up thinking this map is any better than 5, because 5 basically was the map that did this first and did it a little bit better, in my opinion. Now, yes, 5 from Black Ops 1 is harder, but I think that overall, the way that that map was executed was better. Which is why I'm immediately going to follow up Classified with the original 5 and just say that I'm going to rank these back to back because they're pretty much identical for me and I really don't need to separate them that far from each other. I like the fact that you can play as the presidential cast in 5 on Black Ops 1, and I just enjoy the Black Ops 1 system. I enjoy the Black Ops 1 guns. I enjoy the Black Ops 1 perks. I just prefer the stuff in Black Ops 1 versus the stuff in Black Ops 4, regardless of what map it is. Town from Black Ops 2. Now, Town is actually a genuinely good map. The first Black Ops 2 map, I will say, I actually like. Now, it is a part of transit, yes, so there is fog and lava, but it's not pervasive like it is in the other 2 maps. It's not nearly as bad. For a lot of us, including myself, this is our childhood map. This was the map that we played a lot during Black Ops 2's launch. Now, Black Ops 2 suffered from a lot of bad maps in the very beginning. Bus Depot sucked, Farm sucked, Transit sucked, Die-Rise sucked. Basically, the only map in Black Ops 2 that we had to get by for months was Town. Town was what lasted us all the way to at least Mob of the Dead, which took about like half a year to actually get, because Mob of the Dead didn't come out until, I want to say, like April of 2013. That was how long we had to wait for a genuinely good map to come to Black Ops 2. It was a long-ass time. So for a lot of us, Town is that childhood map of ours, because I will admit that even though that Town is not necessarily my favorite map, it at least is genuinely good. It was something to keep me and my friends from getting bored. I rotated on this game plenty of times when I was just trying to play with my buddies on Xbox 360, and even if I didn't play this game long, if I was just playing this game for a few minutes, that was good enough for me, and then I would either jump onto like Halo or GTA or something. But Town does have a special place in my heart, and I'm pretty sure it does for a lot of you guys as well. Kino der Toten from Black Ops 1. Now, what is one man's Town is another man's Kino der Toten, because there are some people that are nostalgic for Kino, like how that I am for Town. Now, I like Black Ops 1 quite a lot, but that's not the game that I grew up with. I grew up with Black Ops 2 predominantly. So I understand why some people would prefer Kino, and even though I didn't necessarily end up growing up with Black Ops 1, I'm still ranking Kino higher because in general it's a better map. I think Kino plays more fun. I think that Kino's more enjoyable. It has a better wonder weapon. It has a better flow. Kino's just better than Town, by a little bit at least. And I think that Kino is deserving of being higher up on the list because even though it was meant to be the last World at War map, it ended up being a pretty decent map when it was brought over to Black Ops 1. I don't think it even would have done that well had it been in World at War, because if it had World at War mechanics, it probably would have been more frustrating. So I think that Kino's a good map, and it was probably for the best that it ended up on Black Ops 1. Blood of the Dead from Black Ops 4. Now, of all the remakes that were in Black Ops 4, Blood of the Dead was the best, despite this map being frustrating, because Treyarch put their heart and soul into this remake. Treyarch knows that Mob of the Dead is one of the best maps they have ever made, hands down. So they decided to end up making Blood of the Dead within Black Ops 4. But I do say this, is that I think that they should have just remade it for Chronicles within Black Ops 3. That's the one thing I feel like that Treyarch should have done. Still kind of bugs me to this day. Black Ops 4's Blood of the Dead is not inherently a bad map. It's kind of grown on me in a way. It's not my favorite because of a lot of different reasons. I think it's still a very frustrating map at times. But it's not like absolutely god-awful like I remember it being. I think that's more rather tied to the Easter egg, which I'm not counting Easter eggs when I'm talking about these maps. That's just the one specific thing I'm not going to address because those are like a completely different thing, and that's going to be a separate ranking video in another day. But Blood of the Dead, just the way it plays, it's still Mob of the Dead at the end of the day. You still get the Blunder Gat, you still get the Acid Gat. Hell, you can even upgrade this again and get the Magma Gat, which is like a better Acid Gat. The Pack-a-Punch is more straightforward in Blood because you don't need to do the plane stuff, even though the plane stuff wasn't inherently bad in Mob. Here's where I end up getting stuck, is I'm trying to compare this map to Mob of the Dead, like, constantly. But it's really its own map, honestly. All the Black Ops 4 remakes are their own maps. They're not the originals. They have way too many things changed. but in the back of my mind, I'm like, they look like the old map, they have elements of the old map, so I try to keep playing it like the old map, but it just doesn't work with the Black Ops 4 system. It just can't. I think if I were to let go of my rhythm and just fully embrace the playstyle of Black Ops 4, I could appreciate Blood of the Dead more. In fact, I think that Blood of the Dead is more enjoyable for players that weren't completely just absorbed and hooked into Mob of the Dead. If people grew up more rather with the Black Ops 3 and 4 system and not the Black Ops 1 and 2 system, I feel like Blood's a more welcome change for those players than it is for the older ones such as myself. There's definitely a divide in the new fan base and the old fan base for Blood, and there's only some slight overlap because of the fact that it takes elements from Mob of the Dead for nostalgic people and then has new stuff for the new guys. I'm not going to say that the map is higher up on my list. I'm not going to say it's down below at the bottom with the ones I was talking shit about. I would say that this is just an average. We're kind of past the bad maps at this point. We're not really quite at the good ones yet. So I'm going to say that Blood is just a little under average and not quite in the middle, but pretty fairly close to the middle. Firebase Z from Cold War. Now, when it comes to Firebase Z, I think that this map sometimes gets too much hate. I don't really mind the flow of Firebase Z. I love the Ray K. I think the Ray K is one of the funnest wonder weapons to use. Sure, things like the Mimic can be annoying, but I can get past that because I've seen more annoying bosses from previous maps. The Mimic is not the worst. I think that they fixed, debatably, two of the worst perks ever in existence within Firebase Z, because what they did is that they took Tombstone from Transit and Who's Who from Die Rise and combined them and made them have it where they were actually genuinely good as a perk together. They took the best elements of each perk and then they combined them so that way it was a usable playstyle. I always knew that both perks had potential and they finally fixed it several years later. The power is actually the generator style system, that how it was like in Origins, which is funny because most maps I feel like without a basic power switch is not necessarily a make it or break it for some people. In fact, I think it sometimes can add a gameplay layer to the map itself, because if you notice, later on in the list, there's going to be a lot of maps that are at the top with non-traditional power switches, which I think is kind of interesting. There's really not a Cold War Zombies map that I don't like. I think they're all fairly solid, and I have a fair ranking of all of them, honestly. Moon from Black Ops 1 Zombies. Now, how do I describe this? Moon is a map that frustrates me, and I don't like it, but I want to like it. I want to end up getting good at Moon because I know that it has potential. I think the setting is very unique, and I'd want to end up liking Moon. I see people swear up and down that Moon is one of the best maps to ever be created, so I'm taking that at face value and I'm trying to appreciate it myself. But I just have a hard time getting into it because, I'm just going to be honest, I really can't get accustomed to the gameplay elements of Moon, and I really don't want to sometimes. It's weird, it's like I'm ranking this map based off of rather its potential rather than my actual experiences, which is pretty much the only map I'm going to really do this for. So I would say this, is that if you want to end up getting into a map that has a unique set of gameplay elements, and it's definitely challenging, play Moon. You'll end up having a pretty fairly unique experience, to say the least. You'll get frustrated at times, but I think you'll end up being in a situation like me, where you'll look at it and be like, even though this is annoying, I know it has potential, and it should be worth it in the end. I want to get to the point where I tolerate things such as the astronaut zombie and the excavators, so I can enjoy things like the wave gun and the immersion of the map itself. 9 from Black Ops 4. Now, 9 is much better than Voyage of Despair for a launch map. It's a night and day difference for me. Now, there is similar elements, like how that the Wonder Weapon is not necessarily the best in both maps, and they both have way too many mini-bosses, but the flow and the layout of 9 is a night and day difference between Voyage, because I actually feel like I can run around. The spawn room / the training room of 9 is amazing. I like running around in this Coliseum area. Plus also I can get drops from the AI if I'm just simply doing well, because the audience will throw things at me like max ammos and fire sales. You get a cool challenge podium where you can also get things like a pack-a-punch starting pistol like right away, which is also really fun. And not only that, but when you end up playing on 9, you're in general going to have a much more enjoyable experience just because of the processes within this map. The process of getting Pack-a-Punch, the Wonder Weapon if you want to get it for free instead of pulling out of the box randomly, if you want to be able to build the Riot Shield, all that is easier within this map. It's less BS. Forsaken from Cold War Zombies. Now, Forsaken was the last DLC for Cold War Zombies, and it's also the last time we saw round-based, believe it or not, for Treyarch Zombies. So this is a big deal in terms of Treyarch. So what did Treyarch basically end off round zombies at? Well, we got the Crystal Axe, which is one of my favorite wonder weapons of all time. Now, it is better in its axe form in comparison to its gun form, but that's fine with me. I can keep it as the axe for the rest of my life and be completely content. This thing just annihilates zombies, or anything in its way for that matter. I enjoy the Crystal Axe quite a lot. Now, the flow of Forsaken is a little bit weird at times because it's kind of 3 just giant areas that you have to have put together by a whole bunch of teleporters, which is not fun if you want to run around, but it's okay if you at least want to stay in one area for a long time. Now, for some reason in my mind, this would be something that you would see in Infinite Warfare, but they put it in Cold War anyway. There's arcade machines that you can end up playing in the actual game itself, and one of them is of Nocturne Toten from World at War Zombies. You can recreate Nocturne Toten in Forsaken at this little arcade machine, and you can play this for like 2.5 minutes, which is sick as hell. Now, there also is a pinball machine that allows you to play a minigame that is themed after Drages from Black Ops 3, but it's not necessarily the biggest game in the world. You just spawn in an arena, and then you have to feed a dragon head, and all you gotta do is just run around in circles, and then eventually you will win a prize. It's pretty straightforward, but even though this one does give better rewards, I enjoy playing the Nocturne Toten one more just because of the fact that it reminds me a lot of World at War. And if I'm not mistaken, I also believe this is when they finally reintroduced PhD Slider back into zombies, because this is the first time that there's a Perca-Cola machine, because I don't think it's on any other map, and I think you can only get a Wonder Fizz on anything besides Forsaken. So they brought back PhD in this map. Cold War is not my favorite game, and doesn't necessarily have my favorite maps. I think that Forsaken is better than Firebase, but not the rest. And I think that Forsaken is at least a solid map in terms of what we've been getting in comparison to lately, which has been Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3. Because since this was the last round-based zombies we ever had, I think that we should give this map more credit, because based off of the recent stuff we've been getting, this is great in comparison. Zetsubo no Shima from Black Ops 3. Now, Zetsubo no Shima was the odd one out back when Black Ops 3 first came out. It was really the only bad Black Ops 3 map for a lot of people at the time, but Zetsubo's actually pretty good. Zetsubo is fairly easy once you know what you're doing. The KT-4 is pretty easy to get. Upgrading it is a little bit harder, but it's still definitely doable. There's this epic spider boss fight that you can have if you wanted to. It's not necessarily for the Easter egg, it's actually just to get free Widow's Wine. But it's worth it in my opinion, because you can actually get a genuinely good reward for it, because Widow's Wine is a great perk, and this boss fight is fun. It's superfluous to the Easter egg, it's literally just for fun, and they didn't need to do this. There's no other map that has a epic boss fight like this that isn't the Easter egg boss fight. Garad Krovi, Dreisendrach, Shadows, none of them have that. You just get this spider boss fight for free in Zetsubo. Zetsubo also ends up having the Skull of Non-Sople, one of the best specialist weapons ever, and 2 exclusive weapons you can only ever get in this map, which is the Razorback SMG and the Marshall 16 dual-wield version pistols, which are 2 amazing guns, but they only are ever available in Zetsubo no Shima. You can never get them any other map at all. Zetsubo as a map is bittersweet. In order to experience the good, you have to go through the bad. You might get Thrashers, but you can also end up getting the Spider boss fight. You might have to deal with paying for a whole bunch of doors inside the bunker, but you get to be able to use the Razorback, the Marshall 16s, and the KT-4, some of the best and most unique wonder weapons / weapons that are available in Black Ops 3. Zetsubo, you have to be in a certain mood to play it, I would feel like, but if you are in that mood, it definitely will scratch that itch for you. Darius from World at War, and then also the Giant from Black Ops 3. I'm putting these back to back just like how I did with Classified and 5 because they're essentially the same map in my eyes, although I do personally prefer Black Ops 3's The Giant over Darius from World at War because I like the gameplay mechanics of Black Ops 3 more. but there's really not necessarily the biggest difference other than a couple things such as the perks and the gobblegums and the guns. That's basically it. Everything else is the exact same. So I would say that whatever one you like, it really doesn't matter. But this is a really good map. The flow is great, the guns are great, the gameplay mechanics in general are great on all versions of Drages. I think that Drages is the perfect sandbox map. It's probably the best of all the sandboxy maps, or the simple maps, air quote. And I would say that if you want to pick up a simple map, if you want to get first introduced into zombies, play Drages. Tag der Toten from Black Ops 4. Now, out of all of the remakes that were in Black Ops 4, this is one of my preferred ones. It's basically just Call of the Dead from Black Ops 1 with a few added things. Now, in Call of the Dead, there was pretty much no good wonder weapons, but in Tag der Toten, they brought back some of the most iconic ones, with one of them being the Thunder Gun, and then the other being the Wonder Waff. The Thunder Gun is worth your time because it's still strong like it was back in the older games, but the Wonder Waff is not. The Wonder Waff only really chain kills if you headshot now, and has this weird sniper scope, so it's really not worth your time to pick it up. Pack-a-Punch on Tag is pretty much the same as it was on Call of the Dead, but there is an additional Pack-a-Punch that you can get if you do a little Easter egg, where you end up going on a flinger, and then it takes you to this one island that you can go to, where there's Golden Pack-a-Punch, which basically allows you to be able to Pack-a-Punch your gun fully for only 5,000 points, because the way that Black Ops 4's Pack-a-Punch worked is that you had to Pack-a-Punch it like 4 or 5 times for it to be fully Pack-a-Punch, which cost you several thousands of dollars. So this is kind of the equivalent of a Black Ops 4 version of a bonfire sale, but with slightly different reworked mechanics. It's a cool little Easter egg you can do. It's not necessarily the biggest deal if you pass it up, because the normal Pack-a-Punch is still easy and still worth your time. All you gotta do is just wait for the lighthouse to shine its light on the location as it moves, like in the original Call of the Dead. But the Golden Pack-a-Punch Easter egg was pretty easy and straightforward to get, so I would say it is worth your time to do it. You can also end up getting a thing called a heat pack, which is really useful in comparison to what I thought it was going to be, where you can end up being able to last longer in ice, because you can freeze in Call of the Dead and Tag der Toten from the icy cold water. Now, I would say that if you don't end up going into the water, this really doesn't serve a purpose to you, but there probably is going to be at least 1 or 2 times you're going to need to like move in the middle of a round and go through ice. And if you get surrounded and you end up freezing, you're basically dead. So I would say it's worth an investment. It's basically like an insurance policy to you. Now, there also is one more thing worth mentioning about Tag der Toten, is there is this additional room that they decide to add, that if you take this zip line near the lighthouse, you can go over to this area in the map, and in this particular area, there is this research lab where if you wanted to, you can do a side Easter egg that allows you to get these special grenades, which is Samantha inside of a lullaby box, and if you throw it, she will jump out of a black hole and basically RKO any zombies that are in your way. This side quest and this piece of equipment was probably one of my favorite things that they add into this map, because it's super overpowered and it's just really fun to use. It's a much more superior monkey bomb that's more creative. And in case any of you guys are wondering, no, George Romero is not within this map like how he was in Call of the Dead. Unfortunately, George Romero has passed away, so he's not able to end up doing all the video capture and stuff like that he did back when he ended up participating in Call of the Dead. But there is a neat little Easter egg you can do where you can find his glasses on a table, where the character that you're playing as will end up saying a quote that basically pays homage to the late, great zombie king, George Romero. All in all, I would say that this is the best remake that Black Ops 4 has to offer, despite this map not even being made by Treyarch, because it was still, once again, another map that was made by Activision Shanghai, because this was the last DLC for Black Ops 4, and Treyarch basically moved on from this point in the game over to Cold War's development. So, for a final map, it could have been the Great War map that I know a lot of people were really looking forward to, but at the end of the day, they did end up making the best that they could out of the situation, and the map's not entirely the worst because it's a remake of a fan favorite, and they did figure out a way to wrap up the story rather than just giving up on it like the Chaos Crew, so I'm glad that we at least got somewhat of a conclusion within this map. Ascension from Black Ops 1 Zombies. Now, Ascension is a really good map in my opinion. I think it's easy, straightforward, fun, etc. It's got the Thunder Gun, once again, on this map like how it did in Kino, so really solid wonder weapon right there. The map makes sense with the way that it's laid out. It's very easy to understand where you're going and how you end up navigating. And speaking of navigating, the navigating is actually the pack-a-punch process on this map. All you have to do is just take all the lunar landers or the fast travel options in a game in order to end up unlocking the pack-a-punch machine, which is really awesome because any player can do this. Now, even though I like pretty much everything about this map and is higher up on the list, I have one massive gripe with it. The one thing I can't stand about Ascension is the monkey rounds that you end up experiencing. Now, let me explain why these irritate me. So, in Shangri-La, the monkeys were useful to you because they ended up changing them from the way that they worked in Ascension. In specifically Shangri-La, they could end up modifying drops for you so that way you could roll things like max ammos whenever you want if you timed it correctly. In Ascension, the monkeys try to steal your perks, and if you're not watching the machines, they will attack the machines and take your perks from you. So you have to monitor all of your perk machines and prevent the monkeys from destroying it so that way you don't lose your perks such as Juggernog, which is very important, especially in the later rounds. And unfortunately, if you defeat them within their given round, you don't get your perks back like how, for example, during a Pentagon Thief round in the map 5, you would get things like your gun back. So you really have to be careful because if you're not paying attention, you lose important stuff. And for those of you that are being like, oh, this is no big deal, you can just shoot them with your thunder gun or something. No, you can't. I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to go up to a monkey, shoot it with a thunder gun, and then he just laughs in my face. He just continues hitting the quick revive machine. The monkeys on Ascension are way too hard to hit, they have way too much health, they're way too fast, and they end up stealing your perks. That's annoying as hell. And they don't end up attacking you. They only attack you if you stop them from stealing your perks, so you can't end up making them just ignore your perk machines. You have to go around the entire map and follow them and kill them, unless you want to leave like claymores. But if you end up having the claymore fail to kill the monkey, you're screwed. The perks are way too spread out on Ascension for you to watch everything. So unless you end up having good RNG, or a claymore is good enough to be able to stop the monkeys, you're basically going to have it where you lose at least one perk every single round that the monkeys show up again. It's just annoying. But, despite the one little fatal flaw, I still do like Ascension, and I think that the remake in Black Ops 3 is my preferred method of playing Ascension, so I'm not going to completely destroy the map over just one single thing I don't like. D Machine from Cold War Zombies. Now, D Machine is the launch map for Cold War, but it's pretty good. This would be the map that would introduce us to the Cold War mechanics and systems, and the map plays pretty well considering the fact that Treyarch had to rush this. Now yes, it is pretty much a more updated version of Noctur and Toten, which Noctur and Toten has been remade so many times for zombies, it's basically like Shipment or Nuketown from multiplayer at this point. But I'm not going to complain because the remake for Noctur and Toten, in this case D Machine for Cold War, is a million times better than all the remakes in Black Ops 4 put together, so I'll take it. We also do get a pretty unique wonder weapon this time around. We get the Die, which is what I would like to call what the jet gun should have been from Transit, because it's just basically a giant vacuum gun where you can end up absorbing zombies to get ammo, and then you can end up being able to shoot grenades out of it and blow things up. It's a really cool wonder weapon. It's pretty easy to get too. You can also get elemental versions. You can pack-a-punch this thing. You can combine the elemental versions and pack-a-punch that too. So it's basically the Cold War equivalent of how the Blundergat used to function in Mob of the Dead, where you would have like 3 different pack-a-punch variants, or 3 plus rather. And the map has plenty of spots for both camping and also training. This is my I am bored and I want to do something for 2 hours map. I will play Cold War sometimes and just load up D Machine and either play by myself or with friends, and we'll try to get like around 30 and we'll just go for like 2 hours and then we're just going to exfil. Or if you want to, like I know some other people have done before, this can also be considered the camo map because it's super straightforward and it's very easy for grinding. So if you want to get Dark Aether, you can also do that on this map as well because it plays super well for camo grinding. Mauer Toten from Cold War Zombies. This is my favorite Cold War map. I get Walking Dead vibes from this map because we're in a overrun city. You can end up being in the streets, you can end up being on top of the buildings, you can even go underneath of the ground and go into the subway systems where, by the way, if you're not careful, you can literally get run over by a train, which is kind of funny. And Mauer Toten is home to one of my favorite wonder weapons I have ever used in Call of Duty. This is going to end up being the Cerberus, which is this laser pistol that feels straight out of a sci-fi movie. The This gun should literally be nicknamed the Thanos gun because it just snaps enemies out of reality. And guess what? You can get 3 additional upgraded variants of this thing by just picking up drops from the floor. You don't even need to do an Easter egg quest to upgrade this gun any further. You just play the game and zombies will drop you parts and you can pick them up if you want to. You don't even have to pick them up. They are just literally going to just rinse and repeat, fall on the ground repeatedly, and if you're just bored, you can walk on by and pick one up. And the thing is that even though technically this might sound disappointing when I say this, the upgraded versions of the Cerberus are actually worse, believe it or not, than the Cerberus itself. So if you want to, you don't even have to upgrade this thing to get its max power. You literally can just keep the base Cerberus and just upgrade it in the Pack-a-Punch machine. Now, even though this isn't necessarily annoying, I will say this one last thing about Mauer Toten is don't fuck around with the Panzer Sovat that is on this map, because he comes back as a boss for this map. And you thought he was strong on Origins and Dreisendrach. No. He got buff and strong on Mauer Toten. He is the equivalent of Robot Brock Lesnar. It's not even necessarily the flamethrower or the fact that he runs really fast. It's the fact that he can just, at will, jump across the map and land on top of your head. It is absurd. Call of the Dead from Black Ops 1. Now, I would say that Call of the Dead is a map that is worth all the hype. I remember way back in the day when people would hype up this map and say it's one of the best ever. And I would be like, nah, that's not the case, because George Romero looks annoying based off the way that people describe him, and it's Black Ops 1 styled maps, and I really am not necessarily a fan of those in comparison to something like, let's say, Black Ops 2 or 3. I would say that the map in general looks kind of annoying because it's got fog everywhere and that reminds me of Transit. I always just thought that Call of the Dead was not actually a good map. And then I played it, and I actually enjoyed myself. Call of the Dead is a genuinely good map, and I've only ever played it a handful of times because I've never played it until just recently, over the last few months, when I purchased the map, finally, back in June. I never owned this before. This was the last map I have ever yet to play for one of the older Treyarch games, and it's actually really fun. There is a couple of weird elements about this map that make it niche and may turn some people off, such as the fact that we have 2 kind of very underwhelming wonder weapons, and they're statistically considered some of the worst we've ever seen, which is the Scavenger, which is an explosive sniper rifle, which sounds cool, but it's kind of hard to use because you have to worry about either, number 1, splash damage without PhD, or second of all, you have to worry about the gun not being able to kill past round 40. And then we've got the VR-11. This makes the jet gun look like a god gun because this doesn't even kill things. You shoot it and it turns a zombie into a human and sort of is trying to act like a monkey bomb, but failing miserably. This gun is terrible, so that's really why that Call of the Dead suffers sometimes for high rounding, and this is why you cannot get round 100 on Call of the Dead. It's never happened before. The highest I've seen is 96. And then there's George Romero. So, like I said, George Romero is hit or miss for some people. He is a really cool person in real life, but his boss is kind of annoying, to say the least. He has 250,000 health per player in the lobby, which means if you're playing a co-op game with 4 people, he has 1 million health. The best things to take him out are going to end up being the FAMAS, Dragunov, and Death Machine, but the Death Machine is a drop. Nobody uses the Dragunov. And then the FAMAS, I feel like that could be something that somebody uses, but no one's going to waste an entire FAMAS magazine on just shooting George Romero. That's going to be something they're going to save the Death Machine before, which means they have to once again wait for drops. Killing George is useful. You can get another Death Machine or even a Wunderwaffe if you do the Easter egg upon killing him, and I think you're also entitled to a free perk. I just don't believe that a lot of people are going to go out of their way to kill George Romero. They just kind of tolerate him. In summary, I really like Call of the Dead, despite its faults. Sure, George Romero can be annoying, and it's probably the biggest turnoff for a lot of people when it comes to this map, but Black Ops 1 in general has annoying boss enemies in every single map. The Pentagon Thief on 5 steals your gun. The Ascension Monkeys steal your perks. The Napalm Zombie will end up exploding at random moments, and then the Shrieker Zombie will blind you in Shangri-La. And then the Astronaut Zombie is going to jump scare you and steal your perks if you're not careful. At least with George Romero, he's not actively trying to attack you except for at molasses speeds. As long as you don't shoot him, he won't run at you. So you can ignore George all game if you really want to, and you'll be just fine. He's just there. And as for the wonder weapons, I've seen worse before. The scavenger is not the worst wonder weapon ever to exist, and since we have 2 wonder weapons, you can just skip the VR11 and you're not missing out on much. It just also exists. Dead of the Night from Black Ops 4. I am one of those few people that think that this map is criminally underrated, and I've only ever played it twice. I played it once 5 years ago, back when this map first came out, and then I played it again 5 years later, and ended up getting my highest round ever achieved in zombies, and got round 70, which is a big deal for me. Funnily enough, the exact things that people complain about in this map are the things that make me like this map. I enjoy the spooky 1920s horror movie theme by having vampires and werewolves running around the map trying to kill me. I enjoy the Alistair's Annihilator as a wonder weapon. It's one of my favorites to use. I especially enjoy the final upgrade for this gun. I am glad that I went back and played some of the older maps that I have not played in a long time, and one of those is Dead of the Night. I only ever played this map once before, and I was going to rank it much lower based off of my first impressions, which was not fair to do, because honestly, this map doesn't deserve as critical of a ranking I was originally going to give it. It was going to be much lower just because it was tied to Black Ops 4. But once I got used to the flow and understood the map and came to appreciate it, I had fun playing on it. It's a genuinely good map, you just have to get used to it. Ancient Evil from Black Ops 4. This is hands down the best Black Ops 4 map, because this map is the Black Ops 4 equivalent of a Origins or a Horizon Drac. You've got 4 ancient gauntlets that you can use for every player in the game, just like how you have the staves in Origins and the bows in Horizon Drac. And I'm not necessarily going to talk about this other than just brushing over this because, like I said, I'm going to try to avoid Easter eggs, but it's kind of hard to avoid talking about it when you're playing on Ancient Evil. They integrated the map into the Easter egg so well for Ancient Evil. The entire mythological theme with the Chaos story was something that I ended up growing to like. It's honestly just a damn shame that we'll never get a continuation with the Chaos story, because they were just starting to cook with Ancient Evil. If this was the launch map for the Chaos crew in Black Ops 4, I can only imagine how positive things would have went for this game. Revelations from Black Ops 3. Now this is how you do a remake right for Call of Duty. In fact, this was the beginning of what I would like to call the remake phase for Call of Duty, because Garage Crow V was the last original map that we had for the Primus crew, which is kind of sad when you think about it. So let's talk about Revelations and what it did. So Revelations was the final DLC for Black Ops 3. Revelations is the equivalent of a finale within a TV series where you're getting ready for the next season. You end this current story and get ready to continue it next season. Revelations is just the best of all the Treyarch Zombies maps up to that point. So World at War all the way to the end of Black Ops 3. So there's a lot of reused assets. In fact, the map is just basically many parts of other prior maps just shoved together. The only original thing in Revelations is the spawn room and then the pack-a-punch room, and that's it. But it works. It works because this is the only map in Black Ops 3, and this was the first time this happened in general for the series, where we reused assets from old maps. It was only in Black Ops 4 that reusing assets became a problem, so since this is the first time that this happened, it was no big deal. And the particular things they chose to bring back were definitely the best elements of the prior Zombies maps. And I think that the best thing that they did was bringing back both the Thunder Gun and the Apothicon Servant, which are 2 of the strongest wonder weapons we have ever seen in one map. Not only that, but you finally can upgrade the Apothicon Servant in Revelations like they intended to do on Shadows of Evil, which makes it even better of a wonder weapon. I think they even brought back the right bosses for Revelations. They brought back the Margwa from Shadows of Evil, and they brought back the Panzer from both Origins and Horizon Drac. Now, the Margwa is elemental theme in Revelations, so that at least gives him a new spin on things, and then technically the Panzer is the Horizon Drac version of the Panzer, which means he's buffed, but he still is easy to kill if you have both the Apothicon Servant and or the Thunder Gun. Buried from Black Ops 2. This is where I start to get into my all-time favorite map, something I can play at any point and still have fun. This is something you can have fun with friends, and this is something that you can have fun by yourself. Buried has the Ray Gun Mark II and the Paralyzer, two of the most fun wonder weapons ever to use. It also has a perk that I wish, to this day, still came back, which is Vulture's Aid, because Vulture's Aid allows you to be able to end up getting loose ammo and money if you end up killing a zombie, and you can stand in these zombie stink clouds so that way you are invisible, so you cannot be attacked. It's one of the most underrated perks, and I wish with all my heart that they would bring this back someday. It's one of my favorites, but they never did. Buried was unfortunately a map that I think got shafted because it was one of the last Jimmy Zielinski maps, because Jimmy Zielinski was kind of on his way out for Treyarch at this point. So since the map is associated with him, that's one of the main reasons why I feel like they have not brought this back. Now, I do understand that Buried is piss easy and has plenty of things that allow you to be overpowered, like the Paralyzer, the Juggernaut Hallway, the Bank System, Leroy, the ability to get free perks, the Time Bomb, all these different things. But who cares? We shouldn't necessarily have to justify our reasons for having fun. I am always going to look back fondly on and miss when I used to play on the Xbox 360 and had no care in the world, and I would just sit in the Juggernaut hallway with the Paralyzer and shoot zombies endlessly while blasting the music and talking about my day and school with my buddies. I will forever miss that, and that is all thanks to a man that was named Jimmy Zielinski. Jimmy, even though you pissed me off with Transit and Die Rise back in the day, thank you for making Buried. Garad Crow V from Black Ops 3. This map is awesome as hell. You are in Stalingrad with dragons flying around overhead of you. That sounds awesome to say out loud. You also end up seeing the return of the PPSH SMG, which is one of the best weapons in COD history from World at War, and you even have the introduction of the Ray Gun Mark III, which also was never brought back, by the way. Do you remember the saying where Andy from The Office said, "I wish you knew you were in the good times before you had left them"? That was Garad Crow V. We finally got the PPSH one last time. We got the brand new Ray Gun Mark III. We had an epic setting for an epic storytelling element that was introduced into the map, even though you don't necessarily have to do the Easter egg to experience it. This map is just fun to be in, to be immersed. You can listen to the music, you can look at the surroundings, you can just mess around in theater mode, you can play the game, you can just have fun with friends, you can play solo and try to high round. Anything you do in Garad Crow V will be fun because of the way it is. If nobody has ever played Garad Crow V that is watching this video, I understand that Black Ops 3 has paid DLC, and we're all past that at this point with gaming. But please consider the possibilities of what you could experience playing on this map. Treat yourself to a map that will give you lifetime amounts of fun for only just the $15 that it costs, because it's worth it in my eyes. Shadows of Evil from Black Ops 3. This is the best launch map we have ever had for zombies. This map is some of the most fun you will ever experience, and it's free to you just by owning the game. You get the Apothecon Servant in this map, one of the best wonder weapons ever. You get the amazing celebrity cast, with one of those being Jackie fucking Vincent. You also get the Apothecon Sword. It's an absolutely fun specialist weapon. The Margwa originates in this map, one of the best bosses we've ever had. This is where you first got introduced into Widow's Wine, one of my favorite perks of all time. This map is peak. This was zombies. This is what made us fall in love with the series. A cool, fun map with amazing characters, a kick-ass wonder weapon with cool abilities, epic perks, something that will be memorable for the rest of our lives. Mob of the Dead from Black Ops 2. This is, for some people, the best map we have ever experienced in Call of Duty. This map is kick-ass. We have 4 epic prisoner gangster characters in Alcatraz Island. The best concept for a zombies game mode. And I was there. I was there at the actual Alcatraz Island earlier this year when I was in California to see my family and saw the real-life Mob of the Dead. And it's so cool to experience Mob of the Dead now that I've actually been there before. This map is amazing. Treyarch did so much of a good job trying to get every last bit of attention to detail in Mob of the Dead. And now that I know and have experienced where this map comes from, so I can feel like I've actually been there myself, this is one of the best maps of all time, just on its concept alone. The way it was executed was amazing. Jason Blundell knocked it right out of the park with his very first map and had such a massive streak of success with Mob of the Dead, Origins, the entirety of Black Ops 3. This is the beginning of an epic series of events that we didn't know existed until looking back on it now. Drak from Black Ops 3. Drak is an incredible map, and it's only just the beginning of Black Ops 3. This was DLC 1, man. This very easily could have been, and rightfully should have been, the last DLC for Black Ops 3. Treyarch pulled out all the stops from the very beginning with this map. This map has 4 amazing wonder weapons with the bows. You end up getting the lightning bow, the fire bow, the void bow, and the wolf bow. All of these amazing, cool, mythological weapons. And the map takes place in such a cool setting. It's in a medieval castle. It's so cool! As a famous man once said, I am a sucker for medieval castles. Drak is such a cool premise. It's got a very well done execution as well. This map is something that everyone's going to look back on with fond memories. And this was, like I said, DLC 1. And you understand why people were excited for the rest of Black Ops 3, because when this is your first map, which everyone always begs for to be the launch content. You know that saying where people say that, oh, well, the game should have launched this way? That's what happened back in Black Ops 3. Treyarch took that quite literally. We got what was the equivalent of a season finale as the season premiere for Black Ops 3. We didn't deserve this map. It was that good. Origins from Black Ops 2. This is my favorite zombies map of all time. And it's crazy how that we have never had this be topped for almost 10 years now. Origins came out in 2013 back on the Xbox 360. That's how long ago this map came out now. And it's still talked about to this day because it's that good. We had the beginning of all the fan favorite staples start within this map. 4 elemental wonder weapons, in this case the staffs. This was the very first map to introduce the soul box mechanic. The Panzer gods start here. And this was the beginning of the Primus crew, the beginning of Jason Blundell's big story. This all happened in Origins over a decade ago. It's crazy to think that this was the beginning of everything. But yeah, guys, that is going to be my official ranking of every single Treyarch Zombies map from worst to best. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you did enjoy, please consider dropping a like. I worked on this video for 5 or 6 months, and it took multiple repeats and different tries throughout several games and even recording sessions. So please show your support. I would tremendously appreciate it. If this video can get anywhere between, like, let's say 20 likes, that'd be amazing. And subscribe if you're interested in COD Zombies content, because I upload quite frequently, and I think you guys will like what you see. But yeah, guys, let me know how you would rank all the COD Zombies maps in the comment section down below. Once again, leave a like if you enjoyed. I hope you guys end up enjoying seeing another YouTube video from the most unique YouTubers we're ever going to see. Thanks for watching, guys. I love all of you, and peace out.
Hey, meme lords. Jesus here. And you better have enjoyed that video there by the Eternal God Daddy Ninja. You should probably subscribe too, or the mighty Moab will come for your balls. If you enjoyed the video, you might like it too. And give me the memes. Flash, bang, boom!